Hey, are we online? We're live.
We are live, yes.
Okay, welcome to today's meeting, September 29, Flathead Reservation Water Management Board meeting. And as always, we'd like to open these meetings. Volunteers been Georgia. I don't mean to stick you with that, but I appreciate your indulgence there.
Sure.
Thank you.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we just want to come before you today. Thank you for the day we've been given. We ask for a blessing on this meeting, that we're given the wisdom to accomplish the tasks on this agenda in a good way. And we thank you for all that you do.
Oh, then. Okay, with that, attendance, please. Here. 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 For the record, just a reminder that all meeting minutes are on the. Have an interest in those, you can go there and you can. Okay, we need to adopt. If there's somebody that has a change, we'll take a motion to adopt. If you have a change, please let us know.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as provided.
Motion by Roger,
So.
second by Ken, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Agenda approved. So do we have any public comments, for items not on the last few meetings? So record, I don't see any members of the public audience here today. There may be someone online. Is there anyone online and who has a public comment?
You make a public comment online, just raise your hand.
How many do we have online? But no hands. Okay, we'll move on. We'll have another public comment period later in the agenda. So moving on to board business, need to approve the minutes for August 4 and August 11. The board members, you have those. Do you have any comments or otherwise? No, otherwise we'll make motions to approve those one at a time, please. So August 4 agenda, meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the August 4, 2022 board meeting, and good job of capturing all of the.
I'll second.
Second by Georgia, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll move on to the August 11 meeting minutes. Motion by Georgia to approve the August 11 meeting minutes. Second by Roger. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Minutes approved. Our engineer update. I guess at this point, since our last meeting, the update start date for Ethan. Correct? Go ahead.
Seem to be good for the 10th.
All right, very good. Unless there are any questions, I didn't have anything else on that unless Ethan, you had anything else at this point. So any questions by the board? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
And we look forward to getting us started. First call, master services and covered / not covered agreements. Melissa.
So, thank you, board. In your packet, you have copies of the master as well as the which also has a signature page. Your legal counsel has reviewed, and that's why I've included them in your packets today. So we're looking for the board to authorize the chairman to sign them.
Just for the record, remind us, or for the record, what this first call agreement is.
They're doing the website.
Okay. Any questions by the board members? Okay, we have a recommendation to approve. Do we need to, are they together? Do we
Yes,
approve them separately?
They're
Okay,
together.
so we have the master customer agreement with the attached coverage detail document. Move approval.
Mr. Chair, I recommend that we approve the master customer agreement.
Okay,
The service document.
second by Roger, so we'll go down Ken.
I have a question.
Okay, questions?
Melissa, did the legal counsel issue anything in writing about this? Just for the.
We got an email. Well, Haley and
Council on, I guess, we have a question, Haley, Ken, go ahead.
No, I was just curious, in light of the fact that we have indemnification clauses, if their approval of this, which has an indemnification clause, means that they okay this matter.
So Haley, were you able to hear Ken's question?
Yes, hi, can you hear me? Okay, yes, we did take the time to review this in this particular context with this agreement and what it's providing. We didn't see any issues with that clause.
Okay, thank you. Ken? Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Ken? Okay, Roger?
Yes.
Georgia?
Yeah.
Is Teresa on? Not on yet, so I'm a yes, so we're approved. Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Melissa.
the second item I have for you is an amendment to Flathead Reservation Water Management Board for the interim process for approval. So that it gives time for
Get stacked up.
yeah, to get for the engineer's approval. So this just extends that until the end of the year. So that there's that window of time.
And no other changes?
No other changes. The only change in the
Okay, for the board, before we go any further, I just have one thing to discuss on this briefly, and Melissa, that we should, this is going to extend us till
December
till
31st.
December 31st, but one of the things, couple things, one is, technical, great for the board during this time, but I don't think it covered administrative assistance, and I think we need to think about and whether or not a similar agreement should be in place after the state and the tribe to provide backup assistance, technical and administrative. Because as a staff, we're going and won't have a lot of backup in the event someone has to be gone for a certain period of time, as we're facing today, for example. So we're able to, rely on great staff here today, but thinking out loud, posing thoughts to you for that. End of December, we can have that discussion about what that might look like, and would be willing then in that. So, Melissa, do you think that's something that the state and tribal folks would be at least be willing to discuss and entertain?
Yeah, I think it would. Team calls to talk about what continued technical assistance both can provide in terms of administrative support, in addition to what's required under the ordinance itself.
Exactly. Those are my thoughts, board members. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns?
Good idea, definitely.
Okay.
I guess I would just, if Melissa's the point person, I would encourage her to, I don't know, is Arnie on today?
He is not on today, but I. So just for the board's information, so the state and the tribal tech team staff meet on a weekly basis to go over what pending matters and issues are. Agenda, we talked about, all of that. And consult with the water office staff about what their needs are going to be going.
Recommendation to approve the amendment to the memorandum of agreement between the state and the tribe and the water. We need a motion if we're going to approve it. Second by Roger. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, is Teresa on? Teresa, if you were able to hear us, do you have a vote?
Yes,
Okay, thank you and welcome.
thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Melissa. I will just,
I have to leave.
okay,
That's why I gave them.
okay, I will,
Yeah, just so the board knows, that's why I asked to be upfront in the
Okay,
agenda
so let
today.
me do that. So is there anything else that you have? Allowance MOU amendment, so. We can take in public comment on the first call agreements and the MOU. So at this time, is there any public comment on those two items? comments, we've already taken action, so we have domestic allowance applications. So I think that's Ethan. So while Ethan is doing that, if you don't mind, I will go ahead and sign these documents that were just handed to me. Make that presentation.
Chairman, board members, how are you all today? Today, I am here to talk to you a letter of response that the office received a request regarding a well that was drilled. Grace period that was allowed by the board for folks. I believe the well was drilled on June the 21st. And we had initially, and we sent out a letter requesting some application improvements, and the applicant provided. We sent out an additional letter requesting that the applicant explain to us why the well was drilled after the June 1st deadline that the board had set. And so before you, you have a printout. It is Christie, an email that has the applicant's board's question. And so today, board has any direction based on this applicant's response.
Questions, comments by the board members? Yes, Ken.
I think the important thing for me. So, himself unaware of the requirements, and also those persons are also unaware. So I think this presents a unique. And my sense is that we should.
Any other comments? Yes, oh, I apologize.
Limit to the unique facts and circumstances.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Any other comments, Roger?
Also, in reviewing the information that was in the packet, it was obvious that he submitted an application to Missoula County for a well drilling permit. He was trying to be in compliance. He wasn't sufficiently informed, as Ken mentioned. I don't think there was any ill or malicious intent here at all. So I recommend we approve this one for give the application for approval.
Okay, Georgia?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add. Help folks get into compliance, and this individual has. I think exerted all due diligence, after being made aware of what he needed to do, including. Providing this letter for us, so I'm in support of.
Okay, Teresa?
I'm in support of proceeding with the application. I don't think there was anything other than a misunderstanding of process.
Okay, given the unique circumstances and facts surrounding this, I think that it makes sense to approve it. We also don't necessarily want to say we're trying to establish a precedent or policy here, but that for the unique situation, taking these case by case, if we're willing to approve it under that circumstances, then we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second by Ken, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Teresa?
Yes, aye.
Okay, our pattern has been to approve these in math. So if you're ready, we'll take a question, Georgia.
And it says 12 applications at the top.
I really like Dr.
Oh,
So we have 9 applications.
So are we gonna include Mr. Allen's in this too, or is it?
I
not?
can talk about all this.
I think we just took action to approve it. So I think we took individual action to approve this.
I'll make a motion to approve applications. McGinnis, Morgu, Stecker,
More,
Ridenour, Logan, Aurora, 47, and Williams.
motion by Roger to approve these 9 up.
second.
Second by Georgia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3.6 human resources. Water conservation specialist update. Kayla.
Hello, Chairman, members of the board. So I'll present the specialist hiring process. Identified some additional kind of maybe candidates. Longer list of folks to interview. We also got some advice from the HR firm, from Amy Sadler, about just how to conduct a fair and good hiring process or evaluation process, I should say. Because of the challenges associated with it. The tech team discussed this. The recommendation isn't to limit it to just to one, but to have at least one additional person from the committee, and then just to recognize the challenges of coordinating with more. So the recommend asking Amy to set up over 17th, but to at least contact those applicants soon so that they know that there is interest in.
Okay, so we have a request. A recommendation that Ethan. Done on October 17th, or starting then. And request to have a board member participate in that. Have a board member who would like to participate. Georgia, okay, we got one. Georgia and Ethan can coordinate. Are there any others?
If George is not available, or if I can. If I have time, I'll also.
Okay, and we will have Roger as well as me. Ethan, will that work?
Mr. Chairman, I have one.
Yes, Roger.
I'd asked you email whether.
No, as I responded in the email, we did not ask for that information when we hired. We can do that.
Yeah, why would we want to interview them if they're not?
Well, Ken, for the record, would you explain your question there? there a reason for that question? I mean, I know generally.
Oh,
but
yes,
is there
yes,
a
because
particular knowledge of something that the board needs to know
going down the list of applicants, how do I say this diplomatically? I noticed some names were not what you consider. And I just thought, what we ran into was one of the applicants actually authorized to work in the US. And I thought at this point in time, we should make sure that every applicant who spend time and money interviewing is actually authorized to work in the US.
Very good, thank you for that clarification. You good, Kayla?
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Georgia, question.
Given that we've now had the discussion and can move it forward, do we have a date by which our top candidates can be contacted?
With this information, I to mark.
So 3.6.2 personnel policy update. Kayla.
Right, yes, so on the personnel policy committee. Of his review in that policy, and so he is reviewing that now. Not at this exact moment, but in general. And so then the next.
Okay. Any questions by the board?
Mr. Chair, I just like to compliment this subject. All
Okay, given the next step, and just a thought to the board. Given that the next step would be to get it to the attorneys for. Or shouldn't see it now, draft now. Not that I have any particular question. Is the board interested in that?
Mr. Chairman, I think that
Okay, so let's go. That's a good suggestion. Roger, you good with that?
Yeah.
Georgia?
Sure.
Teresa, you good with that?
Mr. Chairman, I could not hear the suggestion. The audio is not fully operational. I only heard a portion of Ken's comments, and then I could not hear Kayla's update.
Reviews it before it goes to legal counsel. We'll get it to the board for a quick review, and then we'll get it to legal counsel.
Great, sounds good.
You can do that?
Certainly.
Okay, very good. We will do that. Thank you, Kayla, for that. Thank you, Ethan. Office of the Engineer Operations. Anna and or Ethan. So you guys can arm wrestle, I guess, over who wants this. Ethan, you want to take this?
I'm actually trying to remember exactly what the operational updates are, other than making.
And our fancy podium. We need to get a fancy podium.
Right, I think that we had to address regarding the short staff that we're currently experiencing in the office. And so we did We did close the office for the first 3 days of this week. We were open at 8:30 this morning. We may end up closing the office tomorrow as well, and staffing issues right now. And it does provide a little bit of a segue into the next topic, but I'm going to check in Anna to see if you had any additional office operation updates.
Not off the top of my head, I didn't get a. But I do know that she's on top of.
Okay, excellent. I did get a little ahead of myself because I noticed that the next item here, there's a couple of items in between what I thought I was going to talk about real quick in the next item, but here will allow, maybe I'll just.
So I think we're on to confirm start date for using the email. 8.7.2.
Excellent.
So
It'll be quick.
I gather Ken is still having. Well, so I'm not sure what's going on, so we need to find some help for Ken and Roger. So I assume Georgia and Teresa, the official board email, I'm trying to use it as well. Does work for me, so that maybe Georgia, are you, does it seem to be working for you, Teresa?
I do not know if I'm in full compliance yet.
We'll have it checked out. Mr.
Okay,
Chairman. All right, thank you, Ken. And Mr. Chairman, I'm playing phone tag with you. For the meeting, I talked to Georgia and she tried to walk the road. Okay. All right, thank you. So, Taylor, yes.
We'll have a meeting. So Clayton and Georgia, like the tech team, to start using your board.
All right, Kelly Connect onboarding meeting update, Ethan.
Mr. Chairman, board members, unfortunately, today's meeting was canceled due to illness over at Kelly Connects, and so we do not have this time. Kelly Connects does plan to reschedule that for sometime next week, as they figure out what makes sense in terms of their recovery from the absence in the office. So,
All right, thank you. So next item would be COVID guidance. Ethan.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, I have a couple of handouts for this particular item, if you'll allow. So as the office moves forward and we all understand and probably hear too many stories, more than we'd like to, about folks catching COVID, thought it'd be a good idea at this time to set the expectations from the board members to the staff. What you have here is one proposal. There are other ways to address COVID in the workplace. I can tell you that we did primarily opted to try to adopt some other agency or organization's existing guidance. In this particular case, what you see before you is an adoption, a proposed adoption for the CDC's recommendations for how to handle if you tested for positive for COVID, or if you are a close contact with COVID. Other approaches that the board may want to consider would be the county's approach. the tribe's approach or the state's approach. They're all a little bit different. Currently, my understanding of what the tribe's approach is, they are using the same guidance as the CDC offers, to the best of my knowledge. I'm not going to act like I know tribe's approach to COVID right now, but that is what I understand from asking some tribal staff about. I do also understand in the past the tribes have where they had some localized masking mandates and so forth. So I don't, to the best of my understanding, I don't think that the tribes always track directly with CDC. States policies are from previous era and are a little bit more restrictive in terms of COVID, staying at home after you contracted it or you were in close contact than what the CDC is currently offering. And I'm quite ignorant about what the county's current procedures are. I do know for a little while there was a joint type of policy between the tribes and the counties. I don't know where that ended up, and maybe some of the board members know more than me. That said, I wanted you to know that we did kind of do other options. We landed on one that we had here today, which is embracing the CDC's guidelines for testing positive or being in close contact. That said, it is here for the board's consideration. We've tried to summarize briefly what this is, and if the board would like to take some sort of an action on this today, we will gladly be able to adopt this for office operations, which would in fact also apply to board members. So if board members were to test positive for COVID or be in close contacts, they would need to also follow these guidelines. So the board and staff members. That said, maybe the board needs longer to contemplate what to do, and that is an option that we would. So, given that, please do. You can ask questions, and I'm not a medical expert, but I'll do what I can.
For the board's consideration and a question, assuming this should actually end up in the personnel policy.
Destination or whatever is adopted here with, of course, the understanding that the board can change that at a later date.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if we were to adopt something now, that we do it as an interim step and make sure that this gets included in the. So just a thought, so what would the board like to do?
I would like to add it as an interim policy.
So you gave us a handout. Teresa's had a chance to see this.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to adopt common sense, reasonable approaches, an interim policy. I would be reluctant to attach it formally to the personnel manual because frankly, the conditions can change. The virus may change, pandemic, endemic, whatever, but I do think that it is important to include a general statement in the personnel policy about when circumstances dictate, we will look to if it's the CDC for guidance to keep a safe working environment to protect the public and our employees, something like that. But I do like the idea that we've got some sort of interim guidance, some sort of reasonable interim guidance. That said, I'm very concerned that we do our best to have someone in the office as much as possible.
Given that the actual guidance language here is short, so let me just read it. Proposed language is the Flathead Reservation Water Management Board requires employees and board members to follow this guidance regarding COVID-19. The board follows the United States Centers for Disease Control recommendations. The board will continue to follow CDC recommendations. That's the language. Comments by the board. Roger.
So I totally agree with what Teresa said. I think she hit it right on. But I have a question for Ethan on this other handout that you gave. Is this directly from the CDC?
That is my understanding. Pamela was nice enough to put this together for us, and I understand that she did a copy and paste effort to try to direct reference to the two links that you see. If you've been exposed to COVID-19 and then if tested positive COVID-19. I would acknowledge that the CDC does change its policies. I'm just going to say frequently enough to know that you have to look periodically to try to keep track of it. For instance, they just recently changed the policy regarding health centers and whether or not masking should be required. General universal masking at health centers. And I happen to know just experience that Montana's health centers had not adopted that CDC recently. So
For clarification, the language for the record, the language I read was the proposed guidance language attached is a printout of information that comes from CDC websites that would be consistent to answer questions about what to do if you are exposed to COVID-19 and what to do if you test positive. So those are the items that are on the list here.
Is this what the state of Montana uses? Or?
So the state of Montana currently has their policy in place is from an earlier period, and it is a little bit more restrictive where there's a longer period. Folks who tested positive or are exposed to COVID-19 are required to stay out of the office. Again, to the best of my exposed to COVID-19, still come into the office with a mask, well-fitting instructions is to test for COVID-19 5 days.
Given the nature of this and the questions, maybe we're not ready to approve a guidance at this point, but if we are, we certainly could take action on it to approve guidance that suggests that it's not specifically a policy yet. But additional thoughts and questions, possible other option would be to refer this to attorneys for legal review. Not sure it's necessary. Either review to be comfortable with what we're doing. That's an option. So, board members, Chris, Georgia.
My only thought is the guidance is general enough that I think we can accept this.
Okay.
Georgia.
All right. So in that case, we need a motion to accept this.
additional clarification. Sorry for interrupting, but I do think it's important that this guidance doesn't necessarily mandate somebody who got COVID-19 to come into the office. I wanted to be clear about that so that there's no misinterpretation. If somebody is ill and feels ill and is requesting sick time to recover, this would not affect that time. Just to, sorry for the brief pause, but
Okay, with that clarification, we have, are we ready for a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt this general guidance today.
Mo-
Yes, I would ask Georgie if she would consider amending her motion to make interim guidance.
Of course.
Okay, request to make this interim guidance, Georgia, your motion,
Yes, I agree.
let's have you state.
Oh, okay. I recommend that we adopt this interim guidance.
Okay, motion for interim,
A second,
second by Roger, all in favor, say aye.
aye.
Thank you, board members. Okay, so let me see where we're at. So I have us at 3.8 interim process for subdivision application update and next steps. Kayla.
Chairman, members of the board here. Right, sorry for the delay. I'm not a good multitasker. That's for subdivision. Subdivision or boundary line relocation. That after the compact. For that area to subdivision and make sure that they either that they need for their proposed subdivision so that they don't, so that DQs are because they can't get the water rights that they want. And so outside of the reservation have been completing those, it's called a predetermination. The NRC has an MOU with but after the compact went into effect, find that it could continue to complete those predeterminations, and so that's why we have this gap. And as we heard, that created some frustration for some applicants. And so the board has was ready to take on the review process. The tech team shared this. And DEQ says that this proposal will meet their needs, for the types of water rights that are available in. Right, this is a little funny looking. In this two-step process, an applicant would contact DNRC, explain how they are currently using water, and then DNRC would do a review of their existing water rights, and describe whether or not their existing use is in conformance with their existing water rights in an email to the applicant. Water in any new or additional way. If the applicant not end up having the and then if they have a new use. That too describes the interim process for the applicant would need to apply for a domestic allowance. And if that proposal meets the water rights review and the conversation with their subdivision application. And DEQ says that combination together would meet the requirements of the. But the DEQ, whether or not they would like to enter into an MOU with the board for this, but they do not need an MOU. Not doing anything different in this proposal from what they're doing already. And so for this proposal, so these reviews would all this process would only be available for people who either don't have any new uses that they're proposing, or if they're proposing new uses that meet the individual or shared allowances that are in the interim process. So this wouldn't, by starting to do these reviews, this wouldn't open up the process for other domestic allowance considerations that the board isn't accepting. Right? DNRC can complete, and that is because there are approximately that have these have been registered. They're in the water rights database, but they've not been authorized by the office of the engineer. So those water rights turn into effect, and they would be eligible to be for DNRC to review. And there's also what we're calling a 180-day. That it after the compact went into effect, and there's 13. Those are in the same situation, who have registered, but they don't have water rights for those registrations. So those would need to be handled separately, and the DNRC and the state and Ethan have started discussing some that we can start addressing those, but that would be a separate process. And then the third limitation that I wanted to is the DNRC review responsibility to the when the board is ready for that, and when the office is ready for that. And if we need the database to do that, we may, I'm not sure. But NRC can continue to do this, but we do recommend that responsibility goes to the board, the office in the future. But this wouldn't tie everyone to that, it's just a recommendation. For further discussion.
Okay, questions by the board? So on regarding the transition, the review of prior access to the database, the state database, and that information that would be part of that. Will we have that? So that's part of something needs to be resolved before we would actually make that transition. Is that correct?
I think so, but I don't know because we haven't really done just enough with the database to know that it's more complicated than I understand. It's for the people's with more expertise on whether that would be needed or not. But DNRC would stop what we're doing here. Then the board and office isn't ready for that transition.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, board members, I would totally agree with you. I do not think this office can reasonably. Anyways.
Okay. And so, yes, Roger.
Yes, I think they'd be really reticent to even do the review of the existing water rights. One is the state-based water rights. We don't have jurisdiction over state-based water rights. And two is the one incident where we had that happen already. There, the DNR in the DNRC's review is, it is politically correct. It was interpreted and somebody else may have interpreted it differently. And so I don't think that's our job. I think that's the NRC's job.
Okay, so, and gets to another thought I had, which is that if this two-step process works, it's characterized here as an interim process and may actually become a permanent process. But I think the point's well taken. So any other comments by the board? Okay, so Kayla, what are we looking for here?
Can I
Yes.
clarify one thing? That at this time, DNRC is agreeing to part of the interim process and if it would become permanent. Discussions and also discussions with the board.
Okay, so as we move forward, we'll look to the technical team and the office of the engineer to give us advice and guidance as a whole regarding our next steps, if any. So today, what are you looking for from the board?
Partly, we wanted to give you an update and getting in the way of and it was very frustrating for folks, and we were able to come up with it. Here and we'll make it. I just recognize that and also see.
Other than informational and discussion, you're not looking for board action. Okay,
And
any
the
other?
reason is because we're not asking the board to do anything.
Okay, any other comments or questions by the board? Teresa, were you able to see that all right?
Yes, I was, and thank you. And I share Roger's concern
Duly noted, so keep that in mind as we move forward. Ethan, you have something else?
Chairman, board members, it's a little unusual, but before we leave the arena of board business, while I've been sitting here reading, I did get a communication from Seth Makepeace, the track hydrologist, that would allow me to move another piece of law that would relate directly. It had a domestic allowance that had been received. And we've been waiting to get in. It was a pretty simple additional SR from the Apple. And the applicant was able to get in here today, and I tried to get in communication with Seth, who needs to approve these. Cell phone today, and so if board would allow, I would like to have the board consider adding another approval of the domestic allowance to the original list of 9.
Okay, so is the board interested in allowing this? Yes, I think you got it. Go ahead.
Excellent. So we'll add to our list. Particular allowance. Approvals today. Thank you for that.
Could we take the action on it since his name is not on there? Roger, you said.
So what is a TSR?
Title status report. So I just happen to be a little bit familiar with this. That had to be clarified, that clarifies ownership of the property. And it was in a probate status, and so the TSR clarified that and was able to provide that to the office. So that clarifies it so that he can get his application. So let's take action on that since his name is not on it. I need a motion to approve the domestic allowance application for Tom Mathias, please.
Motion.
Motion by Roger, second by Teresa. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you additionally for this time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
on the board, you did not ask for public comment on COVID guidance.
public comment on COVID guidance. Thanks for keeping me honest. So if there is any public comment on COVID guidance, let's take that at this time.
If you would like to make a public comment on
Any public comment? No public comment at this time. Thank you, and thank you, Roger. And Kayla, was that it? Did we finish your business?
yes.
Okay, thank you. So, we have other updates, board member updates. So as you're thinking, let's see, is our legal firm on? Haley and John are there, yes? So, hi Haley, so I would take this opportunity to just have you give a quick rundown of maybe just for the record, a quick rundown of the items we're working on. And if there's any questions by the board, we can address those.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I have to apologize. It's been quite difficult to hear a majority of the conversation happening today on our end. So I would request that we circle back at some time after this board meeting to go over some of the agenda items that our firm is needing to review. In terms of an update from us, we have provided the board with an artist release contract with regards to the logo that the board would like to have done. And also we'll be providing the board with the open meetings memo that the board had inquired about in previous weeks. And on our more long-term agenda, we are in the process of drafting the board's bylaws and the board's policies and procedures.
All right.
Mr. Chairman. may I-
Yes, Amy, can you hear me?
In and out.
You got to speak up for her, please.
Yeah, on your list of topics, one of the things you add. Is that going to cover the tax question? What is the tax status of the board?
I believe you're, sorry, cutting out. I believe you're discussing the jurisdictional memo that we had also provided that we would do for the board. We are going to be discussing how the board is defined, and in that context, how it's defined in a tax concept. We did discuss a little bit of that with Christy last week and Melissa last week, and we will provide a more formal answer to the board in that memo.
Thank you. Very good. That was the question. Thank you. So any other comments or questions by the board?
So I guess I'm just curious about the release, contract release. Are we,
So the release information, I'm aware was, Melissa got it, and I asked Melissa if she or Rob would address that, and I think she sent it to Rob. I have not heard, so I'm assuming that Rob then will address that with them. So Haley, what you provided was a letter then that would be given to the artist, is that correct?
So what Rob had described to our firm was that in order to have the artist and the logo company, I believe it was Six Pony Hitch, who the board was looking to contract with, in order to have that contracted seamlessly, we need to provide some sort of artist release contract to secure any sort of intellectual property issues that may arise.
That information was what you sent us. Rob has that, and he's going to provide that to. I think your comment or someone's comment was that there had to be some minor modification by Six Pony Hitch, otherwise it will just be presented to the artist.
Correct. It was my understanding that in order, we had flagged the indemnification clause in that contract in particular. And in order to proceed with Six Pony Hitch and to work around the indemnification clause with that, the artist release contract would essentially substitute for that clause.
Right, very good. Any other questions?
no, and the reason I bring that up is we signed a contract with First Call today, and one of their issues was the logo and having a logo ready, so I just want to see that moving along.
Okay, I think we're getting there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other? And thanks, John, for attending. Yes,
Next week, where we're at on that? Just anywhere.
so I know that staff is working on getting people registered and getting rooms. So I don't know if anyone here has that information, but if you do, can you share that? If not, if it's Christy who's out, then maybe as soon as you. And keep in mind, we've got multiple emails that you here, so does anybody have that information today?
Only a portion of it, and that is. Nice, and she has completed the registration. Don't know the status of the hotel, but I know that she's working on it. Working on both of them, and they have completed.
And regarding that, the brief PowerPoint that I prepared, I did send out, so assuming that you have seen that, so if not, let me know.
Yes, board's information. Patient credits, and I will pay personally. Credits cost.
Okay, do noted, I would just stay in touch with Christie then.
Yeah.
The other updates by board member?
This is my last meeting. So,
Hi, Amy.
Yeah.
This is your- In your stead,
yep, Craig and Adams.
Craig and Adams.
Yep.
All right, Amy, thank you for your attendance to this. So I'm assuming if we'll need, if we don't already have, we'll need to get his, I'm assuming at least email, because I gather he is not local and will not be attending in person, will be attending virtual.
He'll be here physically. He may be at the 10. Perhaps. So he is connected with the board. I shared everybody's emails to you guys. Just I'll reconnect him again. So
Good,
he'll be up and running. He's just
very good, thank you. Okay, with that, any final public comment? For business today. All right, thank you. No public comment, so next steps, so we are looking at this time, the next meeting being on the 13th. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, we'll try to do it in person again here. Any other questions or comments on that? For 13th, next in-person meeting. So with that, unless there are any other comments. Thank you all very much for attending.